Well, I wonder if you could update us. You talked about getting back to full employment. And so could you update how you define that? I mean, a few months ago, yourself and other Fed officials talked about getting back to the pre-COVID labor market. There was even hints you might try to do something better than that. Now we hear talk of, as you mentioned, people retiring, and there's talk of not being able to get back all the jobs back because of that and other trends. You did mention the prime age folks. So can you give us some examples of things you're looking at specifically to measure full employment? Will you be looking at prime age employment population ratio, for example? And if so, do you need to see that get back to pre-COVID levels to achieve maximum employment, or is there something short of that would work? Thank you.
Thanks. So maximum employment is it's a broad-based and inclusive goal that's not directly measurable and changes over time due to various factors. You can't specify a specific goal. So it's taking into account quite a broad range of things. And of course, employment levels of employment, participation are part of that. But in addition, there are other measures of what's going on in the labor market, like wages is a key measure of how tight the labor market is. The level of quits, the amount of job openings, the flows in and out of various states. So we look at so many different things, and you make an overall judgment. Now, the temptation at the beginning of the recovery was to look at the data in February of 2020 and say, well, that's the goal, because we didn't know that's what we knew, that we knew that was achievable in a context of low inflation. I think we're we're learning now. We have to be humble about what we know about this economy, which is still very COVID affected, by the way. A lot of what we're seeing in the last 90 days is because of Delta. We were on a path to a very different place. Delta put us on a different path, and we see these things. But so I think we're going to have to, ideally we would see further development of the labor market in a context where there isn't another COVID spike. And then we would be able to see, I think, a lot. We would see how does participation react in that world, in that sort of post-COVID world. Right now, people are staying out of the labor market because of caretaking, because of fear of COVID to a significant extent. We thought that that schools reopening and elapsing unemployment benefits would produce some sort of additional labor supply. That doesn't seem to have been the case, interestingly. So I think there's room for a whole lot of humility here as we try to think about what maximum employment would be. We're going to have to see some time post-COVID so that we know, or post-Delta anyway, to see what is possible. And I think the learning for those of us who lived through the last cycle is that over time, you can get to places that didn't look possible. Now, what we also have now, though, is we have high inflation. So we have a completely different situation now where we have high inflation, and we have to balance that with what's going on in the employment market. So it's a complicated situation, and I would say we hope to achieve significantly greater clarity about where this economy is going and what the characteristics of the post-pandemic economy are over the first half of next year.